Welcome everyone to another Timer Tip Tuesday. Today we're really going to focus on certified timers and RaceJoy that are already certified, and it may have been up to a couple years since you've had your certification. And today's training is really all about just refresh on what's changed over the last 18 months. Just want to make you guys really aware of all the different things that we've been working on, and make sure that you understand how everything's working now, because things definitely change over time. So I'm James Harris, and I work on the development team for the event day apps. And Kevin is our manager overall support. So he's going to be having some good information from that aspect today also. So our agenda today is to really look at what's changed over the last 18 months. And really, we're going to break this up into two parts. One is looking at the whole platform side of RunSignup and the RaceJoy, and just talking through how things work in terms of that integration. And so we want to make sure that we have the latest training out there in terms of how registration works and the different registration enablement settings and so forth, and making sure that we understand all those different settings from the platform side that actually control how RaceJoy works on the RaceJoy side. And so I'll be spending the first part of the day just kind of walking through that part and any of the updates that we've done in that area. The second part of our refresh training today is going to be really focused on the RaceJoy map building and different things around RaceJoy features. And so Kevin is going to take on that. He's going to first kind of work through all the stuff with map building. A lot of improvements have happened there, changes over time since your certification, and then also other features that you may want to consider and make sure that you're aware of that we've rolled out that you can make available to your races as a certified timer. So again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming here today. And if you have questions as we go along, you have your little questions panel down there, your chat panel. You can send us questions, and Kevin will take them while I'm presenting, and I'll take them while he's presenting. So we'll kind of get going here. But first, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of our certified timers. I think we have on the order of 400 total certified timers in our community. Not everybody's certified on all the different systems like RaceJoy, but again, it's a very robust community, and we're very appreciative. So that I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but this month is the 10th anniversary for RaceJoy. Started RaceJoy 10 years ago. I had my first race actually with Running Zone down here in Melbourne, and we did an event, and from that point on, it's just been a lot of great things. And really, I started with working with a timer here in Melbourne. He was a contract timer. He gave me, my first kind of start, and I worked with another timer in Jacksonville that really helped me also, my lapse timer. But really, it is the timer community that we've been focused on from the very beginning, enabling you with the latest GPS technology so that you can make that available for your events. And we've done over 6,300 events. We're closing in on 2 million users of RaceJoy, and again, it's been just a really great tool for our events, and it's just been great. And just again, I want to say thank you for everything you guys do out there. I know it's a lot of different things you do with technology and providing this technology and all the different things, and RaceJoy is just one tool in your tool set, but we're very grateful for the fact that you help make RaceJoy together with us and make that tool available to your events. So, along that regard, before we get into what's changed and then kind of the refresher training that we're doing today, this is an example of the evolution of RaceJoy. This is a big effort over this last 6 months. And this actually rolled out on Apple this weekend. And so for the events that were happening this weekend, they didn't even realize it, that completely changed out our Google imagery technology that's embedded in RaceJoy. Android will be coming out pretty shortly. So this is a pretty revolutionary change for us, because the maps now are actually embedded and native on the phone. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of really neat things. One is for those users that have maybe not the greatest cell connection or cell provider, the imagery is actually resident on their phone, and so they can still get path information even without any cell connection. The image of the line that they're on and the milestones and all that stuff is now resonant on their phone. It's not being served off of off of our servers. So it makes for a really great experience. They get much more of a kind of go back, just a higher performing, more kind of natural experience on their phone, and they're not, having to be contingent on whether or not they have a good cell connection. And I live in a very rural area now, and I actually do a lot of testing. I have no cell coverage in lots of different areas of the trails and stuff that I do. And the imagery just is there. As long as I've kind of gotten the imagery loaded and before I, lose cell connection, it really has a really nice experience. Another huge benefit of this technology upgrade is much higher performance. So the maps are not being served off of servers. And so when we get into these really large events, we have the Kentucky Derby event coming up here shortly, very large events, a lot of people in a very congested area, cell service can definitely take a strain. The cell towers aren't normally set up to expect large events in an area that maybe events don't normally happen. And so that can definitely be an issue where, all of a sudden we put 20, 30,000 people in a very small area, and we expect the cell towers to just normally work, and they don't always do that. And so, this is another step for RaceJoy. All that serving off of servers constantly every time they're looking at the map is not happening anymore. It really does provide for a much better experience for those large event venues. So just wanted to mention that at the beginning of our training today, that it's together over the last 10 years that we've worked to keep evolving this technology, making this technology even better and better as we go. And it's through our cooperation and partnership with you that you're making this event available to the events, and it just helps us, make even better tools as we go along. So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to first talk about registration integration, what's changed, what you should be aware of, and what are the different kind of options in terms of like how things are done. Because I remember doing certified training when I think our first RaceJoy certified timers were probably 3 or 4 years ago at a symposium, and things changed so much in this area, because at that time we didn't even have the type of registration integration we had. We used to talk a lot in your training about just enable one course option for each thing that they do, and don't enable all the different registration options and all that. And so, this is definitely an area, if it's been a while since you've had your certification, to pay special attention to, because a lot has changed in this area. So before we get onto that, again, RaceJoy we started 10 years ago. It was all about course tracking. We're the only tool out there that is truly based upon the path that's loaded. It's not based on the number of steps they run or how far they travel their phone. It's really designed to provide for the most closest to course experience that you can get, and that's all based on you as a certified timer loading in that path. And so our results are off, even though it's using GPS time, are often within 30 to 45 seconds of RFID timing. If you set, again, based upon your training, your milestones, based upon signage locations and certified locations, you're going to provide for a really, really tight experience for those participants. And again, it's all based upon that actual path that's loaded. And so it's not just about virtual, but of course we do support the virtual over COVID. We did a lot of work in this area. So if you got any kind of virtual events and challenges and stuff, it's definitely a great tool. It auto submits the results for them and just makes it really easy for them to just get that virtual result in and be something that's more official, because it's not based on somebody just arbitrarily typing in something. The phone actually had to move that distance, and that elevation change can also be shown. Again, with the on-site events, all your timer scored results are showing right in the app. And that's another change with the integration. I've done a lot of work over the last few years. Just, if you're pushing results to RunSignup, you're providing for not only a real nice GPS experience for the tracking, but you're providing your scored results right there side by side, and they can kind of see it all together, and really makes for that kind of online results now being pushed right into the app for them. So what is it all about registration event enable? What's kind of changed? Again, we really want everything to be turned on in terms of your registration events. And we were talking today a little bit about the different types of processing types that we have, and make sure that you have that latest experience. So enable everything. The only thing you don't want to enable, and I'm going to be going through examples today, is a bundle. And so we'll talk about a bundling and how you handle bundling, and what on the RunSignup dashboard side, if you type the words event grouping, that's what we call bundling. It's basically where you have something, and I have an example today, actually an event that just happened this last weekend, or it's about to happen, where they just had one registration option, but basically lots of different course options are available under that. So at the end of the day, just remember, just enable all the events for RaceJoy, and then just don't enable anything that has like a bundle. And so examples would be like here, I have all these different ways of registering people for the adult, the youth. I may have a ruck, I may have a military. Just turn it all on. That's really the key takeaway here. But any type of bundled type of event where you're putting together a 5K on Saturday, or maybe a 5K Friday night and a half marathon on Saturday, you don't want to enable those for RaceJoy. And so we're going to be showing examples today about using processing types. And again, you don't need to set up all the different courses. It's really easy, just get everything enabled, and then you can start using alternate course processing and or other things with the virtual to just set it up in a way that you only have to do the work one time for a given course option. So event grouping is really that keyword you want to look for on the RunSignup dashboard. That's where you have someone set up to register for something, and at the same time, when the records are coming to other systems like Race Day Scoring or RaceJoy, this is the way that we get those records. And basically, if they registered for the bundle, we're going to get an individual record for the 5K and the half marathon, and that same thing will happen with RaceJoy. So in terms of them setting up their profile and seeing that they're going to be able to do that 5K and that half marathon, all you have to do is set up this capability here under event grouping. And it really doesn't affect the registration aspects. It will affect a little bit how some of the reporting looks in the participant area, but it doesn't really affect anything in terms of the registration. It really is an important setting for how we get records in external systems like RaceJoy and Race Day Scoring. So again, the key thing that you guys remembered from your training, and I just want to kind of highlight this again, is that what do we need in RaceJoy? We need to think about having each different course that participants will actually traverse. That's what we need to have in RaceJoy. So again, most of the time, your registration options are going to be set up. They're just going to be enabling a whole bunch of different registration options and having to do the reverse problem that you're having to say, oh, I only want to configure this course one time and I need to figure out what to do with these other registration options. But there are times, and this is a special case we just had come up recently, where you are working with a race director and they just want them to register for the Rock River Madness. It's just 2 days of cycling fun. And you know what? They didn't want to set up all the different course options that are available. So what do? Again, RaceJoy needs to have the different courses loaded that people can do during the Rock River Madness. And so you would need to follow these steps. And so again, you just create those extra registration events or work with the race director to set up those registration events. You hide them from registration, and then you enable those for RaceJoy. And so, and then we can change the names of the courses. And this is the key takeaway here on the next screen. You can just basically use and change the name of the course that's offered. So I can call it a 55, a 30, and a 100-mile course option. And again, what's set up in registration doesn't have to match the names that you're using in RaceJoy. So and again, you can hide these from registration. This is the setting on the Race Wizard. Just basically close the registration immediately and hide the events with closed registration. So there are races, and again, let me go back before I go on to this, just to go back. That one point. So this point here of changing these course names, like I have an adult 5K and a youth 5K, I got a military ruck and a half marathon, you can change these course names. So I can call this just a 5K, and this is my half marathon, and I'm done. And so you can, basically control the names of the courses that are actually shown in RaceJoy and those can be very different than what you show and what comes from registration. So we show this mapping to you on your course screen, and you can quickly edit those under course actions and make these whatever you think would make sense to the user in terms of these are the different course options that they can traverse, even though the registration may have been set up with lots of different options. Whoops, wrong way. So we often get this, again, just in terms of certified timers, it's very important to know that you do have this tool available to you. It's not just about RunSignup registration. You will be working with events that don't use RunSignup registration, not a problem. And we definitely want you to use the tool. It helps you sell your business and your services. We hope that eventually, because they're seeing the platform, they'll look at RunSignup maybe in the future years for their registration. So what do you have to do? What are the steps you have to do for races that don't use RunSignup? Really just set up the draft event on RunSignup. You'll send an email into the info, into the support team, and just saying, I need this to be enabled. An invoice will be sent to you as a certified timer to your certified timer address for $750. And it's optional. Again, you can import the registration data if you want that automatic profile to show up in RaceJoy where they can just see themselves, they can see their course options, they don't have to set up profiles. If you don't import the registration data, not a problem. Participants are pretty, this is where, I was talking, 3 years ago when you got certified, we didn't have this registration integration. People were just coming in and setting up their profiles. This was just added, over the last 2 years or so. So, making it easy for participants to set up themselves up and just come in and know that they're doing the half marathon or the 5K, so easy for them now. And that's because we've done all this work with the registration integration. If they're not using RunSignup, and you want them to have that same experience, you'll need to import the registration data, and then you'll have automatic profiles in RaceJoy. And then there's just a normal setup for RaceJoy from that point on. So again, pretty low cost barrier there, especially if you're working with a larger event and you really want to give them all your bells and whistles as a timer, something to consider making that available to them. So with the registration integration, what do you have to do? Nothing. It all works. All the changes are syncing real time to RaceJoy. So as you're making edits and changing, names and fixing people to be in a team or not a team, all that stuff's happening in real time. And by the time the participant comes in and sets up their profile, the information is what is the current information. Even after they've set up their profile, name changes and things like that will actually show up on their main homepage. It's all happening in real time. And so it makes for a really nice, tight data interface for you. The one thing we want to call out to our certified timers here is, again, bibs. Bibs are optional secondary identifiers. RaceJoy tracks phones. It's something to just keep remembering that we're tracking a phone, and the phone is the actual device identifier that we're actually tracking internally. So we like to show bibs. We show bibs on the map and the different screens and stuff like that, because people like those bib numbers. It makes it quicker for them to find people sometimes. But again, finding by name is probably most common. But again, it's something that's optional, especially if you're not using RunSignup for a registration and you're just loading that registration data, or you're not using them for any of their bib tools or check-in tools. Again, it doesn't matter for us. Just get the the registration integration working, and the names will be there, and that's what really matters. This question comes up somewhat every once in a while, especially with the virtual challenge stuff. You're working with an event and you want to get them all set up. Really important. You got to have at least race age. Again, we totally understand privacy around date of birth. We have a privacy policy. We never show date of birth anywhere. We never share information. The data is yours. You own and manage the data with your race. The same thing with RunSignup, as you know. So again, we are very strict about the privacy fields like date of birth, but we need to have one of those two identifiers in order for the interface to work correctly between the systems for the registration integration. So if you're not providing either a race age or date of birth, again, it'll still work. It's important for you to know that participants will just have to set up their own profile, and that they won't see themselves automatically in RaceJoy. So, just to kind of end on this whole thing about enabling RaceJoy and the different events, we really are looking for our timer community, our partners out there to provide the full RaceJoy experience. RaceJoy is not just for the marathon and the half marathon. You will get emails from us. We had a big event recently where they just did the half and they didn't want to do the 5K. The thing you should know is that we're back here in the sports side of the house, and we get a lot of participant feedback and emails and stuff. And participants are looking like, hey, I'm doing this event, and why isn't this available? And so it just creates extra levels of angst and support. And so what we're asking for is our timers to, if you're going to provide RaceJoy, give them the full experience, load the courses, again, the different courses they can traverse, and provide them for what the event encompasses. So, I'm gonna, I went too fast. Okay, yeah. So we're now gonna kind of look at, the kind of the setup, different things, and then we'll be moving into the map changes. But one thing we wanna kind of highlight here is, we're here to help you at info. So info@racejoy.com is your channel. That's your private support as a certified timer for RaceJoy. That's not user support. And so we would look at that channel a little bit differently. You will get emails from that channel, like we're reviewing things and we're saying certain things. We may ask you questions, but again, we're happy to help you. If you have any questions about how to set up an event, how to, how this bundling works, or like how I should sell this, definitely send an email and we're happy to help you with that. And just so you know, we do a lot of race week reviews. You may be seeing emails. We'll actually review on the go live alerts. We'll proactively send you emails then. We actually send emails during the week sometimes when we see some things going on. And I just want to stay here on the story for one thing. Again, as certified timers, you guys are out there, you know what's happening. We had an event this weekend where they literally got told Friday night that, again, weather, we all deal with weather. They had some weather issues. They had to change some courses. So Saturday morning, we're monitoring, and then all of a sudden we get this, like, the event just completely turns off, and like people were actually out there on the course with their phones. We had all the blue dots going and everything, and like they tried to turn the event off. Well, obviously we don't allow that. Later we found out the timer just decided that, well, I couldn't handle the situation because the course has changed. So again, this is a good example. We're here as your partner. If something's going on that Friday night where you got a sudden course changes, you don't know what to do, you don't have time to get new courses loaded, send us an email. We have options. There's different things we can do to kind of switch it behind the scenes to maybe a race anywhere type scenario, and still make it work for those users that are set up. So again, we're here to help you through this as you encounter all the different scenarios that you do as timers. And believe me, we understand what it's like to be a timer and the fires that you guys go through. So we're going to talk a little bit about what different event options, again, on the platform control the RaceJoy processes. So we talked about registration integration first. Now we're going to talk about what are the different things that on the platform and how those different settings control how RaceJoy works, and just making sure that you guys have the latest information on that. So the event type definitely controls things. This type actually changes like what options we make available to you and how we will actually process and set up RaceJoy. And so whether or not it's virtual or run, walk, if it's any type of in-person event, just set it to the type of event. If it's anything dealing with automatic results submission, it doesn't matter if you're even trying to just give them an actual course to go do, but you want RaceJoy to do the actual results submission, you're going to need to set that up to be virtual. Even though the users may be thinking like, I'm actually going out and doing a course, and you're naming it a course, if you want that automatic virtual result set to exist, you need to set that type to virtual. But for any other normal timer type scenarios where you're actually providing timed results and you're doing just course tracking on GPS tracking, then set that to be the type of the event. The second thing is the distance matters. We actually have edits and checks that we're looking at and stuff. We set up some of our processing times and different things that we do based upon that. So making sure that that's set correctly is important. Again, you guys are well aware of this with scoring systems like race day scoring, really needing that distance to be set correctly because that's how it sets up a lot of defaults. The tracking period for any type of in-person event where there's not, again, that automatic submission. So the way you think about virtual, just think about it, is RaceJoy submitting a result or not, is what the virtual is all about. But if it's not, then we're really setting our tracking period based upon what's set up here for both start and end. And again, you will see map anomalies and these warnings about like, do you have enough grace period and stuff. And again, we're all dealing with weather. We all know what's going on in terms of those things. And you need to plan for the fact that there could be a 2-hour delay. And you don't want to be thinking about that when you're dealing with it that morning. You just want to know that you've already built in the grace period and you've got that. And so those map anomalies that we're sending out, we've thought through that. We're asking for those kind of 2-hour grace periods to be built in. So just extend that. And if you don't see any map anomalies, you know you're good to go. So any type of automatic submission, if you want RaceJoy to submit a result, we're looking for this virtual setup to exist. And then the tracking period for when RaceJoy is available to be used is going to be set based upon this virtual result submission period. And so that controls the tracking period. Again, we have a lot of events where they're setting up stuff and then this has already been set up and then they can't really set up the virtual side on RaceJoy because maybe this has already started. So it's definitely something you can adjust in order to get RaceJoy set up later. And you can just backdate this when you get done. And that's kind of a point that I'll make on the next slide, because it really is about these course processing types. And so on the RaceJoy side, we're looking at all these platform settings. We're looking at the event type, the distance, the tracking period, and all these setups that happen. And then now you're able to go and say, okay, RaceJoy, I want you to process this course this way or that way. And so that's what we're looking at. And so we have the standard single participant tracking type options. We have the relay, and this is where you're actually tying together different phones and they're being tracked as an overall team. And so we've done a lot of development in the relay. We continue to push the envelope in that area. And it's very simple to set up, but you just need to make sure that you understand the difference between, and we're not talking about a team where everybody's doing the same thing and then you're just doing like a corporate team type of 5K or stuff. What we're talking about is truly people doing different stages of that course, and and us virtually thinking about tracking that team across multiple phones. That's what we call relay processing. And then we have the race anywhere processing, which can be used without a course map. We don't let you turn that on unless it's really kind of that virtual submission. Again, if something comes up, we've had a few timers where just for whatever reason they're just not able to provide a course map, or maybe that last minute scenario. We can't actually use Race Anywhere technology for a standard in-person event. It's something that we have to do on our side, and you have to send an email and info to make that available. And then finally, this alternate course processing is really powerful. This is, again, thinking about the registration integration, just enable all the options, and then just go set up the course one time for the 5K, name the course the way it's just the 5K, and then all the other course options, just set them to be alternate to that one 5K. And then if you do that, all the registration records will come in, and even though the people registered as VIP or they registered as military, they're gonna find themselves all set up for that 5K and be able to do that course. And again, just to highlight about the relay, again, as certified timers, it's just one of those things. You're just always doing these things, and then all of a sudden you get this relay, which is not like a normal weekly experience. We get it. We do have videos out there to help you, but just remember, it's super easy. All it is the same as a standard course, and you're just needing to add that extra exchange point, get that point on the course, and then configure those exchange points. And then don't forget, again, from your training, the last leg always ends on finish. So you just set those properties up on exchange point, and the last one will be the finish. And that's as simple as it goes for relay. It's not a lot of extra work to set up a relay, but it does need to be set up differently so that we can track different team phones for different segments of the relay. So just remembering that registration integration is automatic. Just need to get the stuff set up at least 5 days before the event, enable everything except bundles, and use that alternate course processing to kind of set yourself up when you enable all those options. And just the last note on this, we know that things happen. We hope that you guys are doing a good job of planning out your schedule. You got your calendar, you're working your schedule, you know what you're doing. But if something does come up last minute where you need to get RaceJoy put on, just send an email into, again, info is your private support channel for certified timers, and we'll help you get that enabled, even if it's like a day or so before the event. This question does come up again as certified timers. I just want to remind you, we actually keep this going. It's been going on for 2 years now. If you're working with customers and you just want them to understand what RaceJoy is, we have the demo race out there. Just have them go register for RaceJoy Rocks on RunSignup, and then use the app and RaceJoy Rocks, and they can actually hear audio and get demo of the event. So it's a really good way for them to get exposed to it. It's not going to be course tracking, obviously, but it would be fine for just them to understand the technology. But if you needed it to really do a course and you wanted customers to experience like course tracking and geo-cheer-based messages and how things work on a given location, absolutely create a test event. All we ask is that you put your company name somewhere in that, and don't use RaceJoy. So it'd be like, your timer company and then maybe the name of the race test or something like that. Just save it in draft mode, and absolutely. We just had one this weekend. They were actually using it for some other like training thing. So, again, this is a tool that's available to you guys for working with your customers in different ways. We support you on that. So I'm going to move on unless there was anything, Kevin, that we need to socialize before we move into your area about actually looking at map changes and all.
Nothing to socialize.
Okay, great. So we're going to move on to Kevin, and he's going to do the second part of our refresher today.
Yeah. Cool. So as James said, I'm going to get into just a couple of new things that we have released over the last couple of months, potentially a couple of years for some of you guys that got certified, I think, in our first round back in 2019. So going to talk about some automated marker additions that we've done. It's some pretty cool stuff. This just got released a couple of weeks ago. I'll give a quick GeoCheer refresher. There's been a couple of updates there as well. And then kind of as James talked about earlier, I'm going to dive a little deeper into how to handle last minute course changes, the logistics of how to do it, and just kind of how to handle that. I think we often talk about it, but I don't think we have done a great job of trying to give you guys as much support and training on how to specifically do that. And then I'll also talk about some general common support issues that we've seen over the last couple of years as well. So before I get into this, I do just want to kind of call out all of our how-to videos. So when you're on the course maps section and you're kind of importing your courses, we do have quite a bit of how-to videos in that orange button that you can view. If you guys ever have any questions, obviously, feel free to just shoot us an email at info@RaceJoy if you have very specific questions about your race. But just want to call that out for everyone here. Okay, so the first kind of big feature and I think feature that you guys will love is that we now will automatically add intermediate markers. So if you guys remember back in the day when you guys went through your training, I went through a whole 45-minute period of teaching everyone how to identify proximity issues, how to identify turnaround issues, and basically how to solve those. If you recall, with proximity issues, typically you could reduce the read field, that radius, for the marker, so that the other parts of the course kind of weren't coming into that read field for that marker. And then for turnaround issues, if you recall, we would add that intermediate turnaround point towards that turnaround area so that all of the alerts would still go out at the correct order. So we've done a lot of work, and development team has done a lot of work so that we have found a way to essentially automate, I would say, 99% of these situations. So I think the best option, and I think you guys know me, I prefer to show things as opposed to telling, but so I think what we can do is just take a look at kind of this feature in action. And we're gonna use that same Nashville course that we kind of trained you guys on. So if I come into actions and import my map, I'll search for the Nashville. I know I have it here. There it is. No, it wasn't coming up. So we'll select the KML and we'll generate mile markers at every 1 mile. And so quickly, you can see, if we just go into our configuration, you see that we now have added this 2.78 and 8.56 marker. Let's go ahead and just finish the timing configuration setup. So let's just go ahead and remember to always put in that finish distance that we still need. And let's head here. Let's head to mile 3. So if you guys recall during training, this was a proximity issue. So if we came into actions, toggle marker radius, I would show everyone that, this portion of the path was, within the read field of mile 3. So then participants would get an early alert. And so what we had done in the past is we would come into timing configuration and drop the read field of mile 3 to 35. And that would essentially solve that problem because this portion of the course, as they run south, is no longer in the read field. For situations like this, intermediate markers is a way to actually resolve this in addition to dropping the radius. And so what you can see now, what we've done automatically is we've added this 2.78 marker in for you to resolve that proximity issue. So if we bring the radius back up to the default 60, and we follow along on this course as the participants are running. So they come here, they reach mile 2, they start running south, and again, when they reach this area, they're still, around mile 2.5 maybe, and they're continuing to run south, and they'll make a right, and then a right back up 17th. And when they're coming up 17th Ave is when they truly hit mile 3. So if we think now that we have added this intermediate marker for you, when they've reached this this portion of the course and they're running into the read field for mile 3, similar to what we have done with the turnaround marker, RaceJoy is going to think, okay, they're at mile 3. What's the marker before mile 3? Well, since we've added this mile 2.78 marker, RaceJoy is going to say, cool, that marker is mile 2.78. Have they reached that mile marker? Since the answer is no, we're not going to issue an alert out when they cross this area for mile 3. So that's essentially how we've, that's kind of what this feature is, kind of showing right there. So we've automated this process. We've added this marker in for you to resolve proximity issues. We have automatically set up the timing configuration, so you don't even have to enter in the distance. We automatically uncheck progress alerts and audio pace and everything like that for you so that when participants cross this random mile 2.78, alerts aren't going out to participants and spectators. So all of this is totally automated for you now, and you don't have to really worry about anything. You just kind of have to load in the course and just let the software do its thing. So similar to the proximity issue, if you guys recall, we had this turnaround issue back here. And again, you can just see that we've automated this. We've automatically added in the intermediate marker for you. We've automatically set up the distance for you in the timing configuration. And again, unchecked progress alerts and audio pace, and kind of everything there for you. So if you guys have noticed over the last couple of weeks, and when you've loaded in courses, you've noticed some of these stopwatch icons being automatically added in for you. That's a way for us to be able to allow you to not necessarily worry a lot about like turnaround issue and proximity issues, which is I think it makes your life a lot easier. It makes my life a lot easier when I'm reviewing races, knowing that for the most part, when no one's missing any turnaround markers, which is great. So it's a really cool feature there. Now, there are some limitations with sort of this ability to automatically add markers. When sort of mile markers or proximity issues are too close to call, so if there's a mile marker that's super, super close to the turnaround marker, or there's a proximity issue that is like they're right on top of each other, the map anomaly will still appear and we will not automatically put in that intermediate marker for you. So we won't put in the marker for you, and when you save your map, you'll see the map anomaly saying, hey, it looks like you have an issue, kind of like what this image shows. It says, mile 4 was configured for 4 miles, but was first detected at 3.65. You may need an intermediate marker between 3 and 4. So in those situations where it's too close to call, we don't necessarily want to automate that and potentially add in a marker that may not be needed or anything like that. So we'll give you that anomaly and you'll still have to manually resolve those issues. So again, just to demonstrate so you guys can see it in action, kind of what it looks like. So if I load in this course here, generate markers every mile, they start here and they run down Hartford Road and they'll turn around somewhere here. And you'll see if I click into mile 4 and I select calculate distance, you'll see that mile 4 appears at mile 3.69 and mile 4. So what that tells me is that as participants are running south on Hartford Road, the first time they reach mile 4, they're really only at mile 3.69. They run, a quarter of a mile, an eighth of a mile down the road, and they turn around, and as they're coming back up north, when they reach mile 4 the second time, is when they truly are at mile 4. So because mile 4 lies really close to the actual turnaround marker, we didn't automatically add in that marker for you. So this essentially is a turnaround issue. And so again, because this marker is so close to this turnaround, we're not going to automate that. And when you select save, once I get everything in here set up properly, when you hit save, you'll get this anomaly here, which basically should tell you that, hey, you have a turnaround issue or potentially a proximity issue that was a little too close to call and you'll have to resolve it manually. And that process doesn't change. You'll come into the add marker tool, add the marker onto the course, calculate distance, save the marker and add it to the timing configuration, and then select the distance. Once you do that, everything gets loaded in there and you're all set to go and everything is resolved. So if I click save map now, it's only going to give me the anomaly that this course isn't certified. So just be aware of that. We are automating a lot of things for you now, trying to make your life a little easier, trying to make the setup a lot easier for you. But there certainly are instances where things might be too close to call and you'll still see that map anomaly and you'll need to kind of take care of it manually, kind of the old school way.
And if we just zoom in on that turnaround, another even like more powerful example, it's pretty close here, is let's say if he were to slide mile 4 like really like way down there, like really close. And then as a timer, even with a 25-meter proximity radius, I mean, he could try to control the 25 and do that really good there. And even on the other one, the 3.82, and then show the radiuses. Like there's going to be situations where it's just too tight. There's just not enough space to deal with everything, maybe, and so you as a timer, you have to decide kind of how to handle that situation. Again, this is a really kind of edge case. And so what we recommend in that case is just, don't even try to add the intermediate. Lower your radius from mile 4 all the way down to 25 meters, and then just put it pretty close down there. And it's just the best we can do. And so that would be like a real edge case kind of scenario where you just don't have enough space to add a whole bunch of intermediates. You can just move your marker to be pretty close to the end, and then just lower the radius so it fires, down towards the end.
Yeah, there are certainly situations, as James mentioned, where like mile 4 just sits right here, and mile 4 again is still on the way down technically. And if you add an intermediate marker here, you're just almost on top of each other. So as James mentioned, you could just come into the timing configuration and just drop the radius from mile 4 to as low as possible. They will technically get an alert as they're coming down, but it's one of those things where this is, maybe 15 meters, maybe 20 meters, and it's, the markers would just sort of be right on top of each other, and it's sort of a very edge case, and it kind of is very difficult to resolve. So that was automating the marker additions, and I wanted to give also a quick refresher on GeoCheer. I think back in the day when we first did our first rounds and potentially second rounds of certifications, to add a cheer, you had to do everything through the marker. So since then, we've added this cheer column in the timing configuration, and it's really just a lot easier to kind of add your cheer messages through there. So if you're adding cheer messages, again, the easiest way is to always add it to an existing mile marker. You can click into the marker and then select cheer point again, or you can just go right into the timing configuration and select add or edit cheer. If you've already selected, or if you've already added a cheer message to a marker, when you come into the timing configuration, this add a cheer button, it'll say edit cheer, and you'll be able to click into there, and you'll be able to kind of edit any cheers, remove any cheers, kind of edit any cheers that you already have up there. So yeah, I can demonstrate that really quickly here for you. So for some of you, the training that we gave you to add a cheer message might have been to come into here, click into the marker, and select cheer point, and then you can go ahead and customize all of your cheer messages. It is worth noting that in order to get this cheer point tab to be clickable, you do have to make sure you finish all the configurations for that marker. So that was kind of the old school way of doing it. Now, if you just want to go ahead and just click timing configurations, you can click add cheer, and you'll be able to basically add a cheer message that you want for like the start location. This makes it a lot easier because we've had a lot of timers complain or just kind of feedback that they're adding 3 or 4 cheer messages for, let's say, a marathon, and they would have to basically kind of click here, click in the cheer point, set everything up, save it, and then zoom out, kind of move the map over, find the next marker, and so on and so forth. So it was a little time consuming for people. And so we kind of just added everything right into the configuration to just make your life a lot easier. If you wanted to add a custom location, so if you wanted to add a cheer message at a custom location, obviously that is possible. Again, you just sort of add your marker onto the course, If it's maybe a water stop, you could set this to that. And then you can add that marker to your timing configuration, and then you can just come into here, hit added shear, and say, water stop coming up. And once you added shear to a marker, this is kind of where you can see that now it just says edit shear, and that shear message stays there, and you can go through and edit, add, or kind of do whatever you want with it. So just a reminder, with shear messages, you don't necessarily want to give, well, our guidelines really are, you don't want to have more than 3 sponsored related cheers per course. You don't want to do any type of commercials or straight advertising. It sort of has to always be about the participant, right? So with RaceJoy, our end goal should always be to enhance the participant experience on race day. And if you're adding cheer messages as they are at mile 18, struggling about where they could buy a used car, that experience from the participant's perspective may not be necessarily the best. You can certainly add custom cheer message that says, you're at mile 18, you're almost there, and something along the lines of, this was sponsored by X company, whatever it may be. So you want to just sort of avoid straight advertising, straight commercials for participants. If you're uploading any custom kind of MP3 cheer messages, try to keep them between 10 to 20 seconds. There is a 30-second limit, but we found that 10 to 20 seconds is always like a very good kind of length that participants enjoy, because you also got to remember, if you add a custom cheer message at like a mile marker, participants will still get all of their alerts. So they'll say, you've reached mile 4, your split time is 8 minutes, your cumulative time is 17 minutes, your estimated finish time is 1 hour and 25 minutes. After those messages is when your custom cheer message will play. So setting that custom cheer message to 10 to 20 seconds is just short enough where they're not kind of being inundated with just like 2 minutes worth of messaging as they're trying to run or listen to music or whatever it may be. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, so last minute course changes. This is sort of what I really wanted to focus on today. So as James mentioned earlier,
sorry, I just want back one thing that, again, this refresher is all about what's changed. I just want to highlight one thing about this custom cheer thing that's changed a lot. So back in the day when we used to give you guys a training, like this stuff had to kind of like be preloaded and like wasn't like completely dynamic. It is important for you to know that like everything is completely real-time dynamic right now. So if you're like in the middle of an event and you add a custom MP3 file, like it will happen in real time for those participants. So there may be use cases out there where you guys are dealing with something like you just want to like totally put a recording out at this point, something's going on. And we have one race director up in Rhode Island. She literally just uses her phone and records stuff and all. So just so you're aware, this is a completely dynamic system. It could be used even for like announcer type things that you want to add in where you're dealing with something and you're making it really real time. You can do that.
Yep. Okay, last minute course changes. So in this kind of scenario that I'm going to talk through, this is going to be like a Friday night, 12 hours before the race, and you get your timer and your race director, your customer says, hey, flooding on this street, we need to make changes. And sort of these are the options that you would want to do. So as James mentioned, you never want to disable a race in RaceJoy, right? You never want to disable that event in RaceJoy. If participants have already set up their devices, typically they do. By disabling it, you're sort of not allowing them to use RaceJoy, and their expectation is that they're going to be using it. And if you do this in the middle of the race and you disable race in the middle of tracking, participants are just going to stop tracking randomly in the middle. So you never want to disable a race in RaceJoy. What you'll want to do is if you have course changes and it's Friday night and you're able to make the changes, make those course changes in whatever map tool you use. I'll do a quick demo of plotter app. But once you make those course changes, save that as a KML or GPX file, all you got to do is head into the map and select Actions, Import Map Path to bring in the updated path. And then you can select Recalculate Distance Markers to move any of the GPS markers into the correct spots based off of the new course. The other option that you theoretically can do as well is you could do Actions, Clear Map, and just kind of clear everything out and then go right back into Actions, Import Map Path to bring in the updated path, and then you would basically be setting up the map as if you had just restarted. So let's say I have this marathon race and I've got this course loaded in right here. This is the course that the race director gave me 2 months out, and this is what I've loaded in. And it's now Friday night. I get an email from the race director that says, hey, after mile 9, instead of making this left, there was a tree that fell on the course. So they're going to go straight on White Horse Road and connect back up here. So instead of making this left, right, they're just going to go straight. So what you'll want to do is kind of whatever map building tool that you're used to. I like to use Google Earth. I know a lot of people like to use Plotter Out. So kind of in this example, I've got this course in Plotter Out here. So you can see this left-hand turn. If I just go through and edit this route. So I will kind of reshape here. I just kind of reshape it and drag the course to here. And then I'll save my course. And then once I've made that change in Plotter Route, I can go through and download it. Call this updated. So now that I've got this updated file with the proper path, I can come back into RaceJoy. And so I've already got this course loaded in. I can just go into Actions, Import Map Path. I'll select this updated file, and boom, I've got this updated course path in there now. But you can see here that mile 10 is still where the old mile 10 was. So once you load in the new path, you just want to go into Actions, Recalculate markers. And again, we're just going to generate markers every 1 mile. If you have a bike event and you're fixing a course last minute, obviously just make sure you change that to 5. So once I regenerate, it's going to move mile 10 to the new mile 10 based off of this new course. And what probably happened as well is like all of the markers after mile 10 also kind of got moved around a little bit. And once you've done that, you can go through and just hit save. And yeah, so basically these markers got moved around a little bit. Whoops. But so if I hit save here, it's basically saying I shortened the course where that it was 18.04 miles, and now there's no longer mile 18 because the course got shortened by like 0.9 of a mile. So mile 18 is now at mile 17.23. So in that case, like I can go through and just remove mile 18 if I really wanted to. If you have signage out there, just kind of be aware of what you want to do there. And you'll probably also want to update your finish distance. So I basically shortened my course by 0.7 of a mile. So I'll want to add in my proper finish distance into the timing configuration. So that's one option to kind of fixing a course. And again, when these things happen last minute, it's really at the end of the day, your focus should shift a little bit where you're really just trying to get the right course and the markers are generally speaking in the right spots. This course change was very small. You could have a course change that is half the course is totally different. So your signage could potentially be all over the place. So at the end of the day, when you have these last minute course changes, your thought process should always be, let's get the updated path in and let's just let GPS figure out where the markers are and let RaceJoy do its thing, because at the end of the day, it's like 12 hours. You have probably a list of 40 things that you're worried about that you got to take care of. And you just want to make sure, you just want to get everything in and get the markers in and then call it a day. So the other option that I will quickly show really quick is to updating a course path is you could also just go into actions, clear out the map. This will clear everything out and then basically just do a quick import and then just kind of regenerate all of your mile markers this way. And then just make sure you have all of your timing configurations set. And then just save and then certify your map. So those are the two options. I typically would always recommend maybe just going into actions, import math, and just updating the course and then regenerating your markers and then just hitting save. Clearing out the map, especially on a Friday night or at like 3 in the morning, could be a little daunting. And sometimes your mind is going a little crazy, so you're a little worried. So for me, I always recommend just going into actions, import map path, loading in the new updated path, and then recalculating your distance markers and kind of moving the markers to the new GPS locations. Were there any questions, James, or did you have anything to add on? I think this is like a big topic that I really wanted to cover.
No questions. And yeah,
Cool.
you're doing the next part is about what to happen during the race. The only other thing I will say, kind of a caveat a little bit, you know, like on what he was just showing. If you go back to that map for a second, just to add on, again, option 1 is definitely what we're dealing with here. If you could imagine go back to that area 9 and 10, zooming in there. So another thing you can deal with even the night before the event is just removing mile 10. Like he's shown you today a couple of times where he's just removed a marker, and removing markers is fine. You could just decide you're just not going to have a mile 10 alert. You know, again, I don't know, like at that point in the night where you are, you could just literally not even worry about the path change and just go into timing configuration, remove mile 10, just knowing they're not going to go through it, and then remove the marker from the map, hit save. And then, you know what, you don't even have to deal with the distance changes and all that. You're just literally going from mile 9, and at some point they're going to hit mile 11 and it all is going to work. And so that's like again, a very edge case. It depends upon where you are and trying to crisis mode, trying to handle things. So there are times when you might just need to remove part of a course. And so removing part of a course is all about just removing the timing configuration for it, and we'll pick it up from the next part of the course. So just a kind of a caveat on that.
Yeah. So the next situation that I wanted to talk about is what happens if something goes on during the race. Course changes happens during the race. Someone sends a bunch of runners down the wrong turn. We get it. It's one of those things that at that point, it is absolutely not in good time management for you to go through that whole process of editing a course, downloading a new course file, and then re-uploading it. That, in my personal opinion, when you're timing a race and you've got this going on in another race, it just isn't necessarily advantageous and kind of for your own sanity to try to do something like that. So when issues come across during the race, we typically just recommend moving markers and sort of guesstimating markers so that they're sort of in the right spots. Again, using monitoring, if you're monitoring your races, you'll see all of these changes kind of happen in real time. So if you are monitoring your race, you're monitoring your leaders, you see that they take a wrong turn, and then all of a sudden you see everyone else follow them. Your leaders are basically able to predict what your next 5,000 people are going to be doing. So in this case, if you look at the screenshot, if we were monitoring this race, you can see that the green line is what they should have been running, and you can see that mile 1 is in this bottom right-hand corner. As you're monitoring, you notice that all of your participants make this left here, right? They make this left and then a right, and then they get back onto the course from here. And you notice like, oh my gosh, like I'm not gonna have anyone go through mile 1. Instead of like going to plot a route, fixing this course, moving this course path to here, and then reloading it, regenerating your markers, just go into your map setup and just move this marker to about there, right? You're sort of eyeballing it, just figuring out about where 1 mile is. Just move it over to where they're running, save your map, and don't necessarily worry about it. Once you move it over there, everything's going to reload onto the participants' devices. And when sort of, if you see it with your leaders doing this and you just move it, your next, all of your 400, 500, 5,000 runners, when they cross and make this left, they will all get an alert at mile 1 and not even know that they totally ran the wrong course. And they won't really kind of know anything was wrong. So again, when something happens during the race, we get it. Things happen, and you're using your monitoring properly, you're able to see that kind of issues come up in real time. Instead of reloading, kind of trying to update the course, just move the markers to where you think, based on eyeball, kind of where mile 1 is, mile 5 is, whatever it may be. And something to mention as well, James mentioned it, but again, I just wanted to reiterate it. If it's late Friday night and you get that email from a race director that says, hey, like we have a course change, the course is totally different, and you're not able to get a map, you don't have time to create a new map, whatever it may be, we get that. Just send us an email at info@racejoy.com and sort of just say like, hey, the course change, I'm not able to get a new course created in time. Can you help? And as James said, we have ways on the back end to essentially make a in-person race a race anywhere race, so that at least participants are able to track their event or track their race and get alerts for each distance based off of their GPS on their device, instead of basing it off of a course. So we get it, things happen. If anything happens late at night and you're just not able to make a new course, just send us an email at info@RaceJoy. If it's at 3 in the morning, you probably won't get an answer at right at 3 in the morning, but you'll get a response pretty quickly, and then we'll kind of get things set up for you. So the second you know of any information or any details, just send it right to us immediately. If you wait till like the next morning, we may not see it in time, or it may not be able to be done in time. So the second you get information and you kind of know what's going on, you're not able to create a new course, just send it right to info@racejoy.com and we'll get it taken care of for you. SOS. So again, this is also a new feature that came out, I believe, within the last year or so. So again, timers have been certified for kind of since 2019. This is something that you have never seen before. But basically with SOS, it allows participants to quickly send an alert and communicate information, and also transmit their GPS coordinates. All of these alerts that participants send out are shown in your monitoring window. So you'll be able to see exactly where that message was pinged, and you'll be able to see kind of where the participant was, and you'll be able to mark certain things as handled. So in the screenshot here, it just kind of shows off what the participants will see. There's an SOS kind of button on their map. If they click into it, they'll be able to either manually type in a message, and we've also created some default messages. So if they just need assistance at that location, they can just click onto that message and then hit save, and everything will kind of send up automatically for them. So this feature does need to be enabled. This is not something that's defaulted to being on. So under race day tools, you'll select RaceJoy and you'll select the custom options tab. And then if you scroll down a little bit, or maybe not, I think it's at the top, you'll select the customize alerts, and you'll just need to provide a contact name, email, and then you'll just want to check this activate SOS button on. Once you do that, and you've basically enabled the SOS feature. And so once you've enabled it and you have people that are using this feature in your monitoring window, this is sort of what it looks like. You'll get this SOS tab, and you'll see all of your sort of SOS messages from your participants here. So here you can see that this particular participant sent a message that just says, hey, water needs restocked at this location. If you select show me location, it'll bring you to the, it'll basically bring you to a ping of where that message was sent. So if theoretically this particular participant sent that message right on this corner of Devon Court and then continued running along, and when you clicked on show message location, you'll know that, hey, this message was sent right when this participant was right here. So I know that that's water stop 3. So I can send one of my volunteers be like, hey, can you refill water stop 3 right on Devon Court or something like that.
Hey,
another
Kevin, can you go on another screen and back? For some reason, our screen isn't updating to where you are. Can you try changing screens? Maybe it's just on my side. Oh, now it's changed. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. So similarly here, this participant just saw that a participant was down and needs assistance, and the participant was being a good Samaritan, and just used the SOS and just said, hey, there's a participant that needs help at this location. They continued using RaceJoy, continued running their race, so they are nowhere near where the participant was. But if you were to select show message location again, it'll bring you to the ping to where that message was sent. So you know, okay, even though this participant is 20 miles away now, I know that at at this intersection, there's a participant down. Let's go get a medical team there. Let's go get a volunteer there, and let's go check on it and see kind of what's going on.
So the only other thing to kind of highlight about this, it's very interesting because again, Kevin's on support. It's interesting how every once in a while, and we just had one about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, people will use our in-app support and they'll send in to our support, hey, there's something going on out there. And we had one where basically they were saying that somebody's in trouble. And they're literally using our in-app support to send us a message. And so then now we're having to try to get that message out of our support and get it to the race director. So we're just an FYI, this stuff is happening out there. And now, it's something to think about. You can just enable it and you give them this tool and it shows right up in your monitoring. And that way, we're not even having to be, a step in that process. So it's something to kind of highlight. It is interesting, like over the last year, I would say it's happened at least 3 or 4 times that we've gotten emails into support about somebody having problems.
Yeah, it definitely happens. So this would be a feature that it would kind of cut out us middlemen and be able to get it right to you guys who are on location, and maybe the race director is standing right next to you, or probably not standing right next to you, but you'll be able to kind of get the race director on the horn a lot quicker than we could, basically. Yeah, so those are sort of the new features that I wanted to kind of talk through. I do still want to go through a couple of support things that we commonly get that I just wanted to quickly review, just a couple. So a question that I see multiple times a week would be, I want to change the processing type to race anywhere, but that option is grayed out. So like James mentioned here, if you are trying to, create a race anywhere race, but you're seeing that the processing type selector drop-down button is grayed out like this and you can't select it, there are basically 2 options. The first option is that you didn't set it to be a virtual event on the event type that James mentioned on the RunSignup wizard. So you want to make sure that it is a virtual event. The second option, and this is, I would say 99% of what I see, is that the virtual tracking period had already started. So because recall that the tracking period, the virtual results submission is also the tracking period. If we sense that the tracking period has started, we don't allow you to change the processing type. So again, what you can do, and James mentioned this as well, is you can change the virtual submission start date to be a date in the future, update the RaceJoy processing type, and then you can change the result submission back to the original date. So I see this often, and I just wanted to demonstrate it really quick. So let's just hypothetically say that this marathon event is actually a Race Anywhere event, and I want to change it to Race Anywhere, but you can see that I don't have that option. The first option, the first place to look at is if you go into your race wizard, you just want to make sure that this marathon event is set to a virtual race. So we're good there. So let's look into the virtual submission period, aka the tracking period for that event. So if I go into race day tools, virtual challenge results, configure results, you can see that for this marathon event, my submission date is 6/29/2022 to 10/20/2024, meaning that my tracking period in RaceJoy starts June 29th, 2022, and it ends October 20th, 2024. So because the tracking period, this accept submission starting date, has already begun, we don't allow you to change that processing period. So let's just change this to be a date in the future. So June 29th, 2023. I'll save that. I'll go back to RaceJoy. And of course, this isn't set up. Let's do it with I was playing around with this earlier, so this is kind of why this is like this. I'm definitely getting a notification on. James, do you know why this happens sometimes?
Is the event not set up to be virtually on our side? I mean, look, it's the RunSignup marathon.
Yeah. But what you would basically want to do is once you've changed this accept starting date to be in the future, this would basically be available to select, and then you'd be able to change it to Race Anywhere. And then you can come back into your configure results and then backdate it and set it back into the original 2022 date or whatever it may be. So again, that's just a common issue that we get. So if you forget, don't worry about it. Just send us an email at info@racejoy.com, and I'll be able to help get you taken care of. So again, you forget, send us an email. No worries at all.
Yeah, the event was initially set up without virtual, but I fixed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, normally that wouldn't happen for users. Okay.
Yeah, that's my test event that I have fumbled around quite a bit with and changed a bunch of things. So it just kind of got into a funky state. Another thing that often comes up, and we get this from participants, and again, I just want to share it with you guys because this issue basically stems from the setup of RaceJoy. But we often get a participant that will come in and say, hey, I searched my registration in RaceJoy. I want to use RaceJoy, but it says no registration record was found. Now, obviously, as James mentioned earlier, they can manually select this, create a profile, and manually create their profile and run the race and not be a problem. But a lot of what we found is a lot of participants do, when they search for the registration, they do like seeing their registration record be found. And typically when this issue comes in, this is oftentimes a timer just never enabled the event that this participant registered for. So if there's a race that has a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon, and they only registered for they only enabled RaceJoy for the half marathon, and let's say Jimmy, for example, registered for the 10K, when Jimmy goes into RaceJoy and searches for himself, he's not going to see his registration record come up. So again, this kind of stems from kind of what we always preach on is, enable RaceJoy for all of your course options, virtual, all of your in-person options. That way, all of your participants don't necessarily have to be told, hey, this race didn't want, this race didn't enable RaceJoy for the race that you registered for. So unfortunately, you can't use RaceJoy, right? We never want to tell participants that line. So again, always just enable RaceJoy for all of your events. And this does come up. I probably see this anywhere from 5 to 15 times a week. So this is happening. And again, we just recommend that you always enable everything for RaceJoy. And that's all I had. Were there any questions that needed to be socialized, James?
Nope, I think it's been a really good session. So again, this will be available as a recording. I know our marketing team's going to put it out there for those that couldn't attend today. And again, we hope that this was a valuable refresher and some new content that maybe you hadn't seen before. And then we kind of brought in, as Kevin rounded out with, typical support things that we're seeing out there. And so yeah, again, we just appreciate your time on Tip Tuesday. We went a little bit longer today for this refresher, but hope it was good for everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay, well, I think I see some new people to the channel, so thank you all for joining us. Brian and I are here to say goodbye and thank you for watching. So goodbye and thank you for watching. If you want to see more though, you can subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and all, that way you get alerted when we post new videos. And if you'd like to click on the thumbs up button and let us know you enjoy this kind of content, we'd be very grateful for that, wouldn't we? You know it! Thanks, Brian. Always got my back.